She was shunned by her kind. Then a human whispered, "I don't see a curse, I see you." Luminous exile. The floating gardens of Meridian Prime were forbidden to Talia, as were most public spaces in the colony. The luminescent veins that branched beneath her skin, delicate patterns of soft gold against her terracotta complexion, marked her as veined, contaminated, unwelcome. "Move along, glowworm," a patroller barked as she lingered too long near the market's edge. "You know the boundaries." Talia tugged her threadbare sleeves lower and retreated into the warren of narrow alleys that formed the colony's outer district. 23 years of existence, and still the sight of her made mothers pull their children closer, shopkeepers clutch their wares tighter. The golden patterns beneath her skin seemed to pulse with the familiar sting of rejection. Her dwelling sat precariously at the colony's edge, a retrofitted waste container reinforced with scavenged materials and wedged between towering atmospheric filters. The constant drone of machinery had become her lullaby, drowning out the distant sounds of normal life that would never be hers. Inside, Talia doubled over with another coughing fit. The dry, racking cough had worsened over the past week, but medical facilities were yet another zone where the veined were unwelcome. Her thin frame shuddered with each painful hack. "Just need to make it to the supply drop," she whispered, sipping recycled water that tasted of minerals and processing chemicals. The branching patterns along her forearms, particularly the intricate network near her wrist, throbbed with her rising fever. Beyond her single window, Meridian Prime's twin moons ascended, casting silver-blue light across the colony's gleaming central districts. Talia watched them while trying to ignore the hollow emptiness in her stomach. Tomorrow she would risk the compost stations again, though the patrollers had grown increasingly vigilant lately. Sleep came fitfully, broken by dreams of floating in light, interrupted by community announcements echoing through even the outer districts, something about quarantine protocols and mandatory medical screenings. Talia paid little attention. Colony directives had never included her kind. Morning brought unusual commotion. Sirens, raised voices, the distinctive whine of shuttle engines engaging. Through a gap in her dwelling's wall, she watched as colonists streamed toward the transport. Bays, belongings hastily packed, faces tight with fear. Evacuation points in sectors 3 and 7. Crystal fever spreading through the residential zones. Priority given to essential personnel and children. The fragments of conversation painted a grim picture. Disease had come to Meridian Prime, and those with means were fleeing. For the outcasts like Talia, abandoned in the outer districts, there would be no evacuation ships. Days blurred together as the colony emptied. Talia's fever spiked higher. The golden veins beneath her skin, usually a soft luminescence, now burned like molten metal. Her water ran out. Her strength faded. Even reaching her door became impossible. In her delirium, she imagined the moons speaking to her. "Your patterns are not a contamination," they seemed to whisper. "They are a gift you have not yet understood." When her dwelling's makeshift door scraped open, Talia barely registered the sound. A silhouette stood framed against harsh exterior light. A figure unlike the angular builds of Meridian colonists. Broader shoulders, different proportions. "Hello?" The voice was deep, warm with concern. "Is anyone alive in here?" Through fever-glazed eyes, Talia saw a man kneel beside her, his deep brown skin unmarked by any luminescent veining, his eyes wide as he noticed the golden patterns visible at her wrists. "I found someone," he called over his shoulder to unseen companions. "She's, alive, but barely." As consciousness slipped away, Talia felt gentle hands checking her pulse, her temperature, not recoiling from her marked skin, but examining with careful attention. "Stay with me," the stranger urged. "I'm Dr. Okafor, Nasir Okafor. I'm here to help." For the first time in her memory, someone touched her veined skin without disgust. Dr. Nasir Okafor had witnessed suffering across 12 worlds, but the abandoned outer districts of Meridian Prime struck him as particularly callous. While the colony's elite had evacuated at the first confirmation of crystal fever, they'd left their most vulnerable behind without hesitation. "Her vitals are stabilizing," but she's severely malnourished, Nasir reported, adjusting the portable medical scanner hovering above Talia's thin frame. They'd moved her to the emergency medical outpost his team had established in a commandeered colony administration building. That's the one with the skin condition? Dr. Varna asked, not looking up from her diagnostic tablet. The colonists warned us about them. The veined said they're carriers of genetic contamination. Nasir frowned, studying the intricate golden patterns that branched beneath Talia's skin like illuminated rivers. This isn't a condition, he said. These patterns are too deliberate, too systematic. He tapped his scanner. And her blood work shows no signs of genetic degradation. Quite the opposite. Whatever it is, focus on the treatable cases first, Varna instructed. We're already short-staffed since the second evacuation wave. But Nasir couldn't forget how the remaining colonists had spoken about the veined ones, with a mixture of fear and disgust that reminded him too much of Earth's darker histories. He'd become a doctor to heal, not to perpetuate prejudice. Later that night, while the rest of the medical team rested, Nasir returned to Talia's bedside. Her fever had broken, and she was conscious, watching him with eyes the color of amber, wary and questioning. Why are you helping me? Her voice was rough from disuse. Nasir poured a cup of water and helped her drink. Because you needed help. I am veined, she said, as if that explained everything. I'm not from your world, Nasir replied simply. Where I come from, we've learned, sometimes painfully, that difference isn't something to fear. Talia studied him with cautious curiosity. The others like you, they left. Some did. I couldn't. He checked her IV line. The crystal fever is spreading faster than anticipated. Those who can be moved are being evacuated to orbital platforms, but many are too sick to transport. And I am not worth transporting, she stated matter-of-factly. Nasir met her gaze directly. Everyone is worth saving. Over the next days, as Talia regained strength, Nasir found himself drawn to her bedside during every break. Initially, she spoke little, but gradually shared fragments of her life. How she'd survived alone since childhood, scavenging and hiding, taught by other outcasts who had since died. The veining appeared when I was 6, she explained one evening, allowing Nasir to scan the intricate patterns on her arm. Before that, I was normal. Afterward, I was nothing. These patterns are extraordinary, Nasir murmured, more to himself than to her. They almost seem to shift with your pulse. They respond to emotions, Talia admitted. It's why we're considered dangerous. We cannot hide what we feel. Nasir smiled. Where I come from, that might be considered a gift. For the first time, Nasir saw the patterns beneath Talia's skin brighten slightly, shifting from gold to a warm amber, a change he would later learn signified something between hope and embarrassment. As crystal fever claimed more lives across the colony, Nasir found himself looking forward to these quiet moments with Talia, unexpected peace amid gathering tragedy. Your blood work is unlike anything I've seen, Nasir said, studying the holographic display floating above his diagnostic array. The three-dimensional model of Talia's cellular structure rotated slowly, anomalies highlighted in pulsing blue. These markers here, they're completely neutralizing the crystal fever pathogen. Talia sat on the edge of the examination table, the golden patterns beneath her skin shifting between honey and topaz. Curiosity mingled with apprehension. 3 weeks of proper nutrition and treatment had transformed her. Though still slender, her face had lost its desperate hollow and her movements carried new confidence. Is that unusual? She asked. Nasir laughed softly. Unusual? It's revolutionary. Crystal fever has resisted every conventional treatment, yet your body destroys it effortlessly. He gestured to the display. And look, the cellular changes align perfectly with your veining. They're not cosmetic, they're expressions of your immune response. So I'm not contaminated? The simple question carried the weight of a lifetime's rejection. Nasir moved closer, his hand hovering near hers, not quite touching, respecting the boundaries she still maintained. "You're exactly the opposite," he said softly. "You're naturally immune, possibly the key to saving everyone still infected." That night, as Meridian Prime's twin moons aligned in an unusual convergence, the first shipments of evacuation shuttles returned, carrying not refugees, but reinforcements, and with them, a future neither Talia nor Nasir could have imagined. Radiance revealed. The returning shuttles brought not hope, but hostility. From the medical center's rooftop, Talia watched as Administrator Voss disembarked, flanked by security officers in respiratory gear. Even from a distance, his rigid posture announced trouble. "They're coming for the veined," she whispered to Nasir, the golden patterns beneath her skin darkening to amber with anxiety. "It's always our fault when disaster strikes. This time we have evidence." Nasir's hand found hers, their fingers intertwining, a connection that still sent ripples of bright gold cascading beneath her skin. "Your immunity isn't coincidence, it's the answer." In the 3 weeks since discovering Talia's unique response to crystal fever, they had worked tirelessly, Nasir teaching Talia medical basics while she provided insights about her body's reactions. The remaining medical team had initially resisted bringing a veined one into their facility, but desperation overrode prejudice as death tolls mounted. Their breakthrough had come 2 days earlier. Using Talia's blood as a template, they'd synthesized treatment for crystal fever. Initial trials on 15 critically ill patients had shown remarkable results, 13 already in recovery. These veining patterns, Nasir had explained during their long nights in the lab, they're not random. They follow your lymphatic system, channels where immune responses are coordinated. The elders, before they exiled me, called our markings paths of contamination, Talia replied, demonstrating how she could intensify their luminescence through focused thought. Nasir shook his head. "Not contamination, evolution. Your people may be developing a biological defense mechanism." As they worked side by side, Nasir found himself increasingly aware of Talia's presence. The subtle fragrance like desert flowers after rain, the musical quality of her voice, the intelligence behind her questions. Somewhere between blood samples and genetic sequencing, his professional interest had blossomed into something deeper. Now, with Administrator Voss's arrival, their fragile new world trembled on the precipice. "The Council demands an immediate briefing," Voss announced, striding into the medical center's makeshift command room, pointedly ignoring Talia, who stood beside Nasir, his gaze fixed exclusively on Dr. Varna. "And explanation for why resources are being wasted on a veined one." Nasir stepped forward. "Administrator Talia is key to everything we've accomplished. Her natural immunity." "Dr. Okafor," Voss cut him off. "You are here as an auxiliary resource. The internal matters of Meridian Prime remain under colonial jurisdiction." His cold eyes finally flicked to Talia. "Including appropriate management of genetic deviance." "With respect," Dr. Varna interjected, surprising everyone. "The treatment protocol developed from this woman's blood chemistry has saved 13 lives already. We have 30 more patients undergoing treatment now." Voss's expression tightened. "The Council acknowledges your medical progress but insists on proper attribution. The official record will show that the breakthrough derived from traditional colonial research. You'd rather let people die than admit a veined one saved them?" Nasir's voice carried dangerous quiet. "I'd rather maintain order during crisis," Voss replied. "The remaining population is frightened enough without upending social structures that have served us for generations." Later, in their private quarters, a converted storage room where Nasir and Talia had been spending increasingly intimate nights, Nasir paced angrily, while Talia sat cross-legged on their shared sleeping pallet. "We could bypass the Council," he suggested. "Release all research data to the Interplanetary Medical Consortium." "They would discredit you," Talia replied calmly, though her patterns swirled with apprehension. "Claim you've been influenced by proximity to veined contagion." Nasir knelt before her, taking her hands in his. The casual intimacy of their touch still sometimes startled her, sending ripples of sunlight beneath her skin. Then we take more direct action. We have the formula. We have the synthesizer. Talia's patterns flared with sudden understanding. You mean distribute the treatment ourselves? Is it stealing when they have no right to withhold it? Nasir's eyes held the intensity that had first drawn her to him, his unflinching commitment to healing regardless of politics or prejudice. That night they made love with new urgency, their bodies communicating what words couldn't: fear for their future, determination, and a deepening bond neither had anticipated. Nasir traced the luminescent patterns that flowed beneath Talia's skin as they moved together, watching in wonder as they brightened with her pleasure. Her fingers mapped, his unmarked skin as if it were equally miraculous. I never imagined being touched like this, she whispered against his neck. Like what? He asked, brushing lips against her temple. Like I'm something precious. The next morning brought crisis. 5 new patients arrived at the medical center, all showing advanced crystal fever symptoms, all needing immediate treatment. Among them was a young girl no more than 7, her small body ravaged by the disease. We need more of the synthesized antibodies, Dr. Varna announced, but Administrator Voss has ordered production halted pending ethical review. That child won't survive ethical review, Nasir said, already moving toward the laboratory. Talia followed, the patterns beneath her skin pulsing with determination. I can give more blood. It's not that simple, Nasir explained as they entered the lab. The synthesizer requires authorization codes now. Voss has locked us out. Talia's patterns dimmed momentarily before brightening with new intensity. Perhaps there's another way. She hesitated. There's something I haven't told you about the veining. She extended her arm, focusing intently until the golden patterns intensified to brilliant luminescence. Then, to Nasir's astonishment, tiny droplets of golden fluid began to seep through her skin along the brightest lines. The patterns don't just show immune response, she explained. They produce it in concentrated form. Nasir stared, his scientific mind racing. That's impossible. Only if you believe we're diseased, she replied softly. But what if the veining is an adaptation? What if we evolved to fight exactly this kind of outbreak? Analysis confirmed what seemed impossible. The golden fluid exuded from Talia's skin contained precisely the same antibodies they'd been synthesizing, but in significantly higher concentration, enough to treat the child immediately. This changes everything, Nasir whispered, watching as Dr. Varna administered the treatment to the young girl. But Voss will never accept it. Perhaps he won't have to. The voice came from the doorway, where a tall woman in colonial leadership insignia stood observing. Counselor Perez, Dr. Varna acknowledged with surprise. We weren't informed of your visit. Deliberately so, Counselor Perez replied, stepping into the room. I've been monitoring Administrator Voss's communications. His selective reporting to the council raised concerns. She approached Talia without hesitation, an unprecedented action from colonial leadership. May I? She asked, indicating Talia's arm. Stunned, Talia extended her arm, the veining brightening involuntarily with her tension. Perez studied the patterns, then pulled back her own sleeve to reveal faint, barely visible golden lines beneath. Her skin. My grandmother was veined, she explained quietly. She hid it her entire life, using pigmentation suppressants. By my generation, it had almost faded from our family line. But I always suspected there was more to the veining than colonial. Doctrine admitted. Within hours, the truth about crystal fever spread throughout what remained of Meridian Prime. The disease wasn't new. It had cycled through the colony every few generations. Each time, the veined had been blamed, ostracized, sometimes even killed in panicked purges. But historical records, long suppressed by leaders like Voss, revealed a different pattern. The veined had consistently shown higher survival rates during outbreaks. They weren't carriers, Nasir explained to a hastily assembled group of colonial officials and medical staff. They were the solution. The veining evolved as a biological response to crystal fever, and your society rejected the very adaptation, They could have saved you. Public revelation brought resistance, particularly from those whose power had depended on maintaining the old hierarchy. Administrator Voss attempted to seize control of the medical center, only to find his authority undermined by emergency council directive. As treatment developed from Talia's immunity spread throughout the colony, attitudes shifted, hesitantly at first, then with growing momentum. Other veined ones emerged from hiding, volunteering their blood for treatment production. Each carried slightly different pattern variations, which Nasir's team discovered corresponded to immunity against other diseases that had plagued Meridian Prime. 6 weeks after Nasir had first found Talia in her ramshackle dwelling, they stood together in the colony's central plaza, once forbidden territory for the veined. The floating gardens glittered in morning sunlight as officials prepared for a public address. "Are you ready for this?" Nasir asked, squeezing Talia's hand. Her patterns pulsed with a new color, a serene platinum that Nasir had come to recognize as quiet confidence. "I've spent my life being defined by these markings," she replied. "I'm ready to redefine what they mean." Councillor Perez approached them, the faint patterns on her own skin now deliberately unconcealed. "The transport ship from Earth arrives tomorrow," she informed them. "The Interplanetary Medical Consortium is sending researchers to study the veining adaptation. They're calling it the Meridian Protocol, a new approach to disease response across human settlements." Talia tensed slightly. "Study us, you mean?" "Study with you," Perez corrected. "They've specifically requested veined collaborators as equal research partners." She smiled slightly. Dr. Okafor was quite insistent on that point in his communications, Azu. Perez moved away to prepare for the announcement. Talia turned to Nasir with raised eyebrows. "You've been planning this," he shrugged. "I've been hoping for a future where your difference is recognized for what it truly is. Not a curse, but evolution in action." He touched one of the luminescent patterns on her wrist. "Beauty with purpose." "And us?" she asked quietly. "What does evolution have planned there? An Earth doctor and a Meridian outcast?" Nasir smiled, bringing her hand to his lips. "I don't believe in genetic destiny. I believe in choices, and I choose you, patterns and all." Above them, Meridian Prime's twin moons were faintly visible in the morning sky, witnesses to a transformation neither celestial nor medical, but profoundly human. The evolution of understanding, the recognition of value in difference, and the illumination of truths long hidden beneath the surface. As Talia stepped forward to address the gathered crowd, the patterns beneath her skin glowed with new brilliance, no longer signals of shame but emblems of hope. Immunity made visible, evolution incarnate. She spoke not just for herself, but for generations of the veined who had lived and died unrecognized, their gifts mistaken for contamination. "Today marks not an ending but a beginning," she said, her voice steady as golden light pulsed beneath her skin. "Today we start to see each other truly."